Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of Elements of Success. If you happen to watch this or drop in at this point in time, we are live recording this in the midst of our holiday winter gauntlet, as I call it. So I understand it is a time to slow down. In fact, that's like what we're talking about today. I think it's so funny, the timing, just that all of this worked out, because as I was putting together this presentation and thinking about winter, I am here actively in winter, actively feeling the season. So lots to say about winter today, but again, welcome back to Elements of Success. I'm Safrianna Lughna, the Queer Spirit Guide, just in case this is your first time dropping in. And I am a licensed trauma therapist turned transformational mentor, druidic priestess, and guide, and here to share with you the wisdom of Mother Nature because it's accessible to all of us. Her wisdom is right here for us. So, we're going to start today by checking in with where we were last time. So, in our current seasons flow, we are literally looking at the seasons and how these seasons impact us in our life. We've been exploring how different seasons physically, outside, in nature, mirror our own internal seasons of life as well. So we looked at spring and summer, and I'm curious, did you notice any areas in your life that are in spring energy or summer energy right now? And what came up when you asked, is this generating energy or depleting it? So these are great reflections, right? We really want to be expanding our energy, growing our energy, having more energy, preserving it at times, especially fall and winter. But we want things that generate for us rather than deplete us or extract from us. That's a huge theme that we've been looking at throughout this whole series. And, spring and summer are the energies of rising, lifting energy, expansive energy, growth. And where we're going today is into the quieter seasons, the softer seasons, the ones where we don't see as much vibrant life, but life still continues. So I like to refer to these as the receptive seasons, where energy turns inward and we find that deep wisdom emerges. Spring and summer feel very much about action. Fall or autumn and winter, to me, feel more naturally integrative and restful in so many ways. So today we're going to cover how autumn is harvest, gratitude, and letting go energy. Winter is sacred rest, stillness, and necessary death. And then we're going to talk about honoring completion and restoration and how important that is. Really hone in on death and dormancy as an essential part of the cycle. And then, of course, create rituals for endings and renewal to really honor everything seasonally that you might need to honor. So, as a reminder, your personal seasons exist within Earth's larger cycles, though they vary. So, you might be in a spring in some area of your life while you're in a winter in another area of your life. You are not separate from Earth. Her seasons live in your body, and you are going through your own cycles all the time. So, just as a reminder. So these quieter seasons, autumn and winter, are, I feel like, often misunderstood in our culture. We are really taught to fear slowing down. There is so much, I unpack this on the regular with my clients. This attitude that we need to be productive all the time, that we need to be producing all the time. And it has really, really depleted us. It leads to so much burnout. And how different would life be if we did not pathologize rest as laziness, but saw it as the essential part of being human and alive that it is? We have learned to resist endings and try to keep things alive past their time. I see this in so many ways, our relationship with death. We really struggle with it as humans, and we can really cling to what needs to go, what needs to be released, because we don't emotionally know how to handle it. And please do pardon me, as we're here alive, I am still recovering from My cold that I had 2 episodes ago has just been ongoing. But nature shows us something different about winter and autumn. Harvest requires knowing when something is complete. When you go out and you're gardening, you don't want to pluck all of the vegetables off the plant before they have actually ripened. You want to give the fruits enough time to really get to their peak. And when they are ready and excited to be harvested, leaves fall, trees overwinter. People complain. I hear people complain. I literally hear people complain about this time of year that we're in right now, winter, here where I am, about the trees losing their leaves and, "Oh, it's not as pretty." And there's just, I hear complaint. But as a friend really reflected to me as we were walking through her wooded area on her land, we were looking out and seeing the branches shedding their leaves and able to see through them. You could see the skyline, you could see the mountains, you could see distant properties, things that you normally can't see. So there's an opportunity as things fall away to see what we might not otherwise see, to look into the shadow. Winter is really the season of shadow, this darkness. So what's important with that is sometimes there are roots that need time in dark soil, extra time. A lot of my cruciferous vegetables that I'm growing really thrive in having an overwintering period. Our shallots, our garlic went in at the end of fall as it was starting to get cold. We're really hoping they survive because we had like sudden shock cold temperatures and just crazy, crazy townness. But death feeds new life. It is an essential part of the cycle. Rest is not the opposite of productivity, but the foundation for productivity. And I love this because I just had a really powerful conversation with a client about this yesterday, too. So, just honoring the synchronicities that this is a big deal so many of us face. We do not understand how rest is the foundation for everything we do. So let's specifically talk about autumn here. And, fall is my favorite season. Luna, Lunasa, my last name, Luna, comes from Lunasa. Lunasa is really our kickoff point of the harvest season. It is our first harvest holiday. It is my favorite one. It has to be my favorite, honestly, because I took it as my partial last name, right? Like, I love autumn. I love fall. I love seeing the colors and the slowdown, and that, like, it's a real tangible reminder of change because the change is so obvious. I feel like emerging out of winter, we come out of this winter like stupor and we start to see all the green coming back, and we just like get back into this mindset that that's the way that it always is. But in nature during autumn, we see the leaves turning vibrant colors before they fall off the trees. We see the fruits finish their ripening and even drop from their plants if they overripe. Harvests are gathered and stored. This is a time of preparation as the days grow shorter and the temperatures begin to cool. There is this palpable sense of things completing, nature's cycle completing, as we gather up a majority of the harvest from the fields. And so there's just this beautiful sign and symbolism in nature that we can look to that's reminding us we need these times to slow down, gather, prepare, complete. Energetically during the season of autumn, there is this transition. It's a transition from really outward energy and action towards inward reflection, that preparation energy. Energy kind of winds down. We feel it down regulating from summer's peak if we let ourselves, right? I've talked a bit about artificial summer and how we just are constantly expected to be at this summer peak all the time, when we really honor nature and we tune into what's there energetically, right? It is this winding down. There's this downgrade of energy in towards stillness, in towards shadow as the days grow shorter. And then there's really this opportunity to acknowledge what's been created, because you can't help, if you are around nature, but see the fruits, sort of wrapping up their season, witness the way that things are changing color, they're becoming brittle, they're dying, they're starting to die off. And so there's really an acknowledgement of wow, this is everything that's been grown this year, everything that's been created this year, and this sense of, all right, what comes next? What are we preparing for and storing for the seasons ahead? So, completion and integration stage, right? Integrating, bringing all the things into the home that have been grown to be preserved for the seasons to come. Signs that you are in your personal autumn are going to look like a project or phase reaching completion. So, wrapping up that book project, sending it out to be published, it's out in the world now. That whole energy has come to fruition and been harvested in the form of a complete project. It can be, you know, transitioning into a period of dormancy. So maybe even coming out of work into vacation can feel like transitioning through a personal autumn. It's really anything hitting that completion stage and you being able to say, all right, this is complete. I am now harvesting and reaping the reward. There's an energy that shifts from the doing, because when you harvest, when you take the fruit off the vine, it's no longer growing, it's complete. So when you ship that product, you finish that project, you have that completion, you're not doing anymore. You're going down into, okay, well, what did I learn? I'm reflecting and refining perhaps for the seasons to come, for the year to come, for the next project. And there's a desire to really take stock of what you've created so you can gather that information. There is a recognition perhaps that something has run its course. So if it's not completion of a project, it might be recognizing a relationship has run its course. It might be recognizing a career is no longer for you, right? Autumn internally, energetically is like and we've wound down and we're coming towards stillness and completion. Emotionally, this can have a bittersweet quality, because there can be pride mixed with release, or there can be sadness mixed with relief, right? If you were to be letting go of a relationship, there is a satisfaction, though, along with the grief of what is ending, because we know it is good to have done. I think that that's really a big thing that comes through in autumn energy, is like, we know, okay, this was good to have done. And now I'm really emotionally integrating everything I've learned, everything I've felt, everything I've experienced, so that I have this know how in the seasons to come. But now it is time to just reflect on that and to be with whatever emotions are here. Autumn is very much a season of feeling the depth of our emotions. Again, these are our two more shadowy seasons, our more receptive seasons, our very dark seasons here in the northern hemisphere, at least. I do everything that I share is from the lens of the northern hemisphere wheel of the year in terms of timing, but the energy is still valid for all of us wherever we are. So there is this autumnal readiness to acknowledge an ending too that might not be as present at other times in our lives. So it really is that recognition that something's run its course emotionally, and we feel that readiness to release, to maybe let go. And there might be a pull towards gratitude. There is a natural gratitude that comes up in autumn. And I want to just say, like, in the United States, we have this holiday called Thanksgiving, which is not very great when you look at the history of it. The energy makes sense to me, though, and that's why I celebrate Lunasa, the energy of celebrating the harvest, right? That makes sense in early autumn when the fruits are really being bared and we're really seeing like this abundance. So it does make sense that this is a season of gratitude. It's just that I don't like to tie it to Thanksgiving. I want to tie it back to the real land. There is gratitude in seeing all that we've harvested from the land in that season. So there is this in your personal autumn, your internal autumn, it's like, "Ugh, I'm grateful I finished this task. I'm grateful I was in that relationship. I'm grateful I had that job that taught me so much," right? And in terms of your action, if you're in a personal autumn, you are completing the final tasks, you're wrapping things up, you're maybe documenting, journaling what you've learned, how you've grown, celebrating what was created, what was good to have done, and then beginning the process of releasing and getting your energy back, right? And that is as you transition more into your winter phase, your dormancy phase. But the practice of harvesting is both a reaping and a releasing because there's what stays, what we reap and what we gain. That's the lessons learned. It's the growth that occurred for us, the connections we've made with wonderful people along the way. It's the skills developed, the wisdom earned, what has nourished you through the whole process from winter into spring into summer into autumn that got you through the trajectory of having completed something, right? To be in a personal autumn, you had to have, at the very least, been in a summer where you produced something. So, what nourished you in that process? These are the things that stay with us. But what we compost back to the earth, what we relinquish back to the energy, and we release just back is what didn't bear fruit, what didn't work, right? There might still be the lessons, but we let go of the hard feelings that something didn't work out. We let go of the relationships that completed and that have run their course. We let go of the beliefs that no longer serve us, that have been perhaps holding us back or keeping us stuck under the surface. And we let go of the efforts that deplete us rather than sustain us. We learn these lessons, we keep the lessons, we let go of the rest. And it's so important just to acknowledge what is true for us is true in nature, that some seeds sprout, some ideas take root, some don't. All of it matters though, because all of it teaches us something, right? And I plant so many seeds in the actual earth that do not grow. Sometimes I don't even know why. Sometimes there is no learning the lesson yet, but it still teaches me, oh, this is just how nature is. Not everything takes root. And as I said, I see gratitude as a natural response here because autumn really teaches us that everything that grows eventually completes, whether it dies off early and that is the completion of its journey, or it bears its full fruit and we are able to harvest that rich reward. Autumn allows us to acknowledge the endings and honor, what was. And I think it's important to acknowledge these endings and what was, because otherwise there's all this stuff we never get to integrate, we never get to call in, we never get to actually have a reward from because we've run away from it. And it's important to know that we can hold grief and gratitude simultaneously. I think that because so many of us avoid grief, we also avoid gratitude because it's that emotional number line. If you can feel your emotions at a -1, you can feel your emotions as a +1. If you can feel them at a -10, you can feel them at a +10. When you can feel them at a -10 and a +10, you start to realize that the charge has nothing to do with it. It's totally okay. You can feel the depth of your emotions. It's just knowing you can hold both. That because you feel that -10 does not mean that you can never feel the +10. It's actually quite the opposite. Feeling all of the emotions allows us to feel them more deeply. So, playing with the both and how can I be with both of my emotions that might seem opposed is really a great thing to explore when we're in a personal autumn because we're looking back in so many ways at what brought us to this point. So, we want to witness the fullness of the cycle, and autumn teaches us to witness the fullness of the cycle, the growth that led to death. And it deepens this appreciation for every stage of the way. When you look out at the earth and you say, like, I planted this seed, it grew into this beautiful plant, I harvested the fruit from it. Now the plant is dying back, but I also have seeds from the fruit that I harvested to plant next year. Like that's the cycle. And autumn shows us the end of that. And then we move into the pause of winter before the full growth happens again. This is literally the same in any part of life you want to look at. Any project you've ever created, any relationship you've ever had, any job you've ever worked, any life that anyone has lived, it goes through these cycles, and autumn really tunes us into that. And that's why, we have these beautiful holidays. We have Halloween, we have Samhain, we have the Day of the Dead, we have, All Hallows. We have these autumnal moments where we are really tuned in to these transition points where we can honor moving towards death. And letting go is with gratitude. And it's one of our greatest human challenges. We do not like endings because we fear loss, we fear the unknown, and we're attached to how things were because we knew how they were. There was certainty in how they were. And so we really struggle to hold on to an ending or to move forward from an ending because we may desperately want what once was. Too often we conflate endings with a failure, that because something ended, because something died or faded away, that it represents a failure. And that is where autumn and this fall energy is really encouraging us to look at it in a different way as a part of this necessary cycle, because change activates our survival response, and we need to renegotiate our relationship with change as not being bad. Excuse me there. So, autumn is really giving us permission to let go, seeing it is necessary to let go. This all ties back in, if you'll recall, to our Phoenix chapter, where we were in the fire chapter. We were talking about how death is necessary sometimes and we need to let things go. We need to burn them away. This is part of autumn's energy. Letting go is natural, it's necessary, it makes space for what is next. And the trees release their leaves, so they survive the winter, so they go through their dormant period. Completion is not the same as failure. And completion, you know, sometimes completion is great. We feel good about it. And sometimes completion is literally letting something go. And that is the form of completion that we look at as failure. And I encourage you to renegotiate that and see it as, again, what did I learn? What did I gain? What am I really harvesting from this? And having the courage to let go. So my invitation to you is to really think about, what are you holding on to that is well past its time, that genuinely it's past its time to let go of, but you've just been holding on. And, is that draining your resources? What else is draining your resources that you are ready to release, that's ready to be let go? It takes courage, but we have this beautiful little compost heap here. This is literally what our compost heap looks like, and it is just this wild trove of nature that always sprouts unexpected seeds in the next year, always. And that's how letting go is for us too. When we let go of a person, a place, a thing, when we let go of an idea, we let go of what we thought was our dream that was really societal programming. We never know what's going to take its place. But seeds sprout wild all the time from our hearts, from our souls, from just living our lives. So have the courage to let go to see what might take its place. And know that you can do so with compassion. Too many of us think that letting go means it didn't matter, or that we, shouldn't care, that we're bad for caring too much. We just have all these judgments about grief. And so we rush past it. We don't want to tune into it. But letting go is an opportunity to feel all of these things deeply, to acknowledge our humanity. So again, letting go does not mean pretending something didn't matter or judging yourself for caring. It does not mean rushing past grief or forcing positivity or erasing what was. Too many of us think that allowing ourselves to have the grief process and kind of move forward means that we're going to erase the past or forget about it, but that is just not true. Letting go means acknowledging something is complete, honoring what was without clinging to it, allowing the grief to move through us and experience the fullness of our emotions, releasing with gratitude for what we received in that, for what was, without being attached to it, and making space for what wants to come in next, trusting the cycle, trusting the wheel of the year, right? There will be a period of dormancy and or death, and then there will be a spring rebirth, a summer growth, and then in the autumn we'll harvest it all again and the cycle repeats. Autumn, of course, is our bridge into winter. It is a preparation time for winter's deep rest. That is why we gather resources. That is why we harvest, so that we can prepare for the season of dormancy. So as energy continues moving inward and the days grow shorter, we are invited to really tune into what's here. Complete what can be completed. Gather the resources for the dormant season ahead. This does mean physical resources, right? It can mean canning goods. It can mean storing things. For so many of us, we live with modern conveniences of grocery stores and we don't even think about these things anymore. But as somebody who homesteads and grows and gardens, like I really, really, really love to have this experience of putting stuff in the freezer or putting stuff in cans or putting stuff in bags, drying things, like to have this storage of all that I've literally grown over the prior seasons. But you can also gather emotional resources, spiritual resources. You know, there's so many times that call to this in our culture, as well as just in our holidays, our seasons, of being in the resource of gratitude, being in the resource of joy, being in the resources of play, reaching out to our support networks, finding our family, our chosen family and otherwise, and really like rooting into those resources. This is the time to let go of what we're ready to release so that we can go into that dormant period with a clear energy. Begin turning towards our stillness, and then trusting that less visible activity does not mean less important activity. Please remember, you cannot stay in summer forever. Winter is coming as necessary rest. If you're in that constant artificial summer, you burn out. So that is why winter is essential, and we need this energy both outside and inside ourselves. So winter is the season of deep dormancy. Nature appears still or sometimes even dead. I look at my rose bushes and I'm like, are you sure you're coming back? I really don't know. You look really, really dead. Like sometimes things appear to have no life in them. And yet, underneath the soil, in the root systems, in the mycelial networks, life is thriving. There is so much happening in the dark underneath the surface we cannot see. So, in nature, of course, our deciduous trees look bare, the growth has stopped above ground, animals are hibernating, the days are shorter, the darkness is longer. We just honored, as I'm recording this live, the longest night just 2 nights ago. So, literally outside, it's been so dark. Everything feels like it's slowing way down because if you even think about heat and like thermodynamics, right? When something is hot, the energy is very high. The energy is moving, moving, moving. When something is really cold, when it's frozen, the energy is stagnant. It's frozen. It's like locked in, right? Solid. There's not this crazy energy burst. So that's literally reflected in our seasons too. Everything is slowing down because it's colder, it's cooler. It's time to slow down, to cool down from life and go into some dormancy and rest. And the earth appears to be frozen or even dormant. Energetically, energy is at its lowest and most inward, right? The days are shorter, the sun is not out as much. So deep restoration is happening beneath the surface. Time of conservation and renewal. So we're preserving energy for the seasons ahead and renewing for the seasons ahead. That's why I'm going to get into joy and play in this season too. It's just so important to allow ourselves a time of renewal. And it's preparation that is happening invisibly. The rest is creating energy, it's preparing for what's ahead, but it doesn't appear anything is happening. And this is sacred stillness and integration. It's where all those lessons from the fall, the autumn that we learned, that we took in, that we harvested, now we're really allowing them to sink into every cell of our being. So, again, beneath the surface, essential work is happening. Roots grow deeper. Seeds do germinate in the dark soil and sprout up in the early parts of spring. Energy is being conserved and restored, and rest is enabling the next cycle of growth. If my fall crops that were planted survive the winter, the ones that are supposed to overwinter, they are going to be tasty, tasty, because they have definitely gone through some harsh winter conditions here recently. So, in terms of your personal winter, as I was writing this, I was like, I really am in a personal winter right now. It's winter outside, really feeling so much of this energy right now. And again, as a reminder, you could be in a personal winter at any time of year in any domain of your life. But winter personally looks like an energetic depletion or needing deep rest. Like there's really just this physical need for deeper rest. You might be withdrawn from external activity, not feeling like doing as much. There can be little desire to create or produce anything visible, called towards introspection and solitude. And again, this is different than depression. Depression is a sort of winter. It's a literal cooling down of everything in our system, which is a product of a being overwhelmed. So we get depressed because we're overwhelmed and our system is trying to cool down and take things off our plate. Personal winter is going to look like some of those elements of depression. Sure, I'll admit that. But it is hopefully coming from a conscious place of like, no, I want and need my rest. And this is a time where I don't want to be producing. Like me right now in my personal winter, I have no desire to actually write my next book, but I'm dreaming it up. I'm sitting with it, I'm laying with it, I'm sleeping with it, I'm daydreaming with it, right? Like I am being with it, but it's an introspective energy, not an active doing energy right now. Action signal wise, minimal external activity. So that's slowing down, deep rest and reflection time. I've been doing a lot more journaling lately. I've just been being called to it. There's that dreaming without acting. So I'm daydreaming my book, but I'm not sitting down and writing it right now. Allowing things to be unclear in this dormant season, there can be a uncertainty. I don't know if the garlic is going to grow outside. We had really crazy freezing conditions like really quick after planting them. So I genuinely don't know if they are going to pop up in the spring, and I'm just going to have to be okay with that, right? This is a season of uncertainty in some ways, but we learn to trust the darkness. We learn to trust to roll with whatever nature throws our way, whatever life throws our way. Emotionally, winter feels like a void or liminal space. I've been feeling that big time, just like kind of like you're between things. There's an uncertainty about what's coming next, but you just feel like, you know what, I can just be. I don't have to do right now. Sometimes this can feel empty, lonely, or scary, especially in our culture, because we've been taught that it's not okay to be, that it's not okay to feel uncertain, it's not okay to be in a liminal space. So I would love for us to all renegotiate our relationship with this and shift to where, the stillness is exciting. There's potential there. It allows us to get curious and listen to our magic and just simply rest and do nothing else. And that's where it can also be peaceful, spacious, and deeply nourishing. So I invite you to bring in more of that because this is an important restoration and gestation stage in life. It's a time where we're really allowing in the darkness things to become. But as I said, we really fear winter because our culture kind of treats it as wrong. Rest is seen as weakness, slowing down is pathologized or shamed, winter is labeled as depression or laziness energy, and we're expected to produce all year round. So just as a reminder, that's why there's this resistance to winter. So I invite you in. How can you shift that? How can you play with it in a new way? Winter is sacred, necessary rest. You cannot bloom continuously. You cannot produce indefinitely. And you cannot skip winter and jump back to spring. That's just not how it works, right? I could go shove seeds in the ground right now that are spring crops, but they're not going to grow. They're not going to grow. So you are the same way. You cannot expect yourself to be productive all the time and constantly doing and constantly showing up. It just does not work. Your system will force you into winter energy through illness, burnout, or collapse if you do not choose rest consciously. So again, we have got to unplug from this in our society and be in a better way, my friends. It's not all on you, but we get to break this together. The wisdom of winter is that the darkness is not empty. It is full of potential. I did my Yule ceremony the other day with my friend Dr. Melissa Bird, and we had participants in there, and I channeled a meditation. And I don't really get to full participate in my meditations when I'm channeling them live. And so on the night of Yule, on the longest night, I listened to it for myself. And it was about going into this darkness and being reborn. And my darkness was so bright that it was dark, and so dark that it was bright. And that is all I can say to that, because darkness is not empty. There is so much potential brimming in there. And so stillness, diving in, going deep into the roots, is not stagnation all the time. It can be really deep work. And we really I feel like I could write a dissertation on how rude we've been to winter as a season, aside from Christmas. I mean, most of us like Christmas. Most of us like New Year's. That happens in the northern hemisphere with winter here. We like those things, but like the rest of it, that energetic desire for stillness, we really resist these things. And we see, again, laziness, bad, stagnation. But dormancy is not always death either, because dormancy can be preparation for rebirth. So all of this, it's like shifting this bad attitude, shifting this winter is bad and there's nothing good that can come of it. And I just wish it was spring already. I get that. And also, can we sink into the wisdom here? Because you're allowed to be not actively producing anything right now. And that's usually our biggest resistance to it, is we're like, but I'm stagnating. There's nothing here. I'm bored. Everything's dying, right? All of this. So just remember, you're allowed to not be actively producing anything. There's so much wisdom in winter. Allow yourself to experience it. When we stop doing and allow ourselves to simply be is when the wisdom emerges. I was literally talking to a client about this yesterday, and she said, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I just don't let myself be still enough to hear the voices of my guides, my magic, my intuition." So we need these moments of stillness. And this is that personal winter, and a reminder that we can cycle through all 4 seasons in a single day. So winter is great for evening time. We're winding down for bed. We're going towards dormancy, to listen. What does my body actually need? What is my spirit actually calling me towards? What patterns am I running from that I just really need to face because they're no longer serving me? What truths have I been too busy to acknowledge lately in all of the noise? And what wants to be born through me next? These are the things we can only hear when we slow down and get still. So, layering in that little bit of winter in your day to get still and slow yourselves down to listen is so good. It's so nourishing. Winter is the energy of deep internal work, right? It's turning inward without isolating and listening more than we speak. Really listening to what's going on inside of ourselves, what's going on inside others, what's going on in the earth. Dreaming without demanding there be immediate action, right? There's so often, and I'm a manifesting generator and ADHD, so I get crazy great ideas all the time, and like I want to take immediate action. I want to do something with this. Winter invites us to really sit with things before we leap and be with, like, okay, does this need immediate action? Does it need to gestate? I think we need to let our things gestate a lot more before we take action than we currently do. And that is, trusting that we don't always know. And that's part of the process. But we allow space for what's gestating in the darkness in this. This is the deep work, the uncertainty, the liminal space, the not knowing, the turning inward. These are our big human challenges. No wonder we have a big issue with winter. But who are you when you're not producing anything? Who are you when you're not producing anything? Who are you when you're not producing anything? This is why we fear the dormancy, because we think we are what we produce and how we show up and how we do all the time. But you are you as you be. So really sit with that. Who am I when I'm not producing anything? It's a really good winter question. So I just want to make sure that we really nail home how necessary death and dormancy are, because it's a big part of nature. Death is a huge part of the natural cycle. And so when we resist death and we don't want to acknowledge that death happens and that endings are a natural part of life, it causes us a lot of pain and suffering. Things die. Projects end, relationships end, old versions of yourself die for new ones to emerge. Identities that served you once upon a time become too small and constricting. I'm writing a piece on that right now, actually, about how, it can feel okay to show up in certain ways for a very long time in our lives. And then all of a sudden, we just feel like they are suffocating us. And it's time to let those roles and those identities go. And beliefs that protected us eventually can become limitations, and we're ready to let those die too. But again, we've been taught to fear death and avoid it. It's time to remember, without death, there is no rebirth. And without decomposition, there is no fertile soil. There's no fertile ground to grow new things. So let things die so new things can grow in their place. What needs to die in you right now? Maybe it's an old story about who you are. Maybe it's a pattern that protected you, an identity that's become too small, a shame that you were never meant to carry. Whatever needs to die in you right now, you can just gently acknowledge that and turn it over to winter. You cannot skip this. If you try to rush to spring without allowing winter's death and dormancy cycle to happen, what that ends up meaning is that you recreate the same patterns with different names. Sometimes not even with different names. Sometimes it's literally the same pattern, and you wake up 3 years down the road and you realize you have been spinning the same drain. Winter asks for your surrender. It asks you to go to the bottom of the shadow. It asks you to sit in the still uncomfortableness of life and integrate, so that you don't have to repeat the same cycles, so you don't have to emerge into spring and your new growth period with the same exact things that have kept you trapped. So let things die off. Allow yourself to surrender. I believe in you. You've got this. And then there's joy. First of all, just look at all these joyful little capybaras. Do they not fill you with joy? I love them so much. And this is a reminder. In winter's darkness, there's joy. There's so much joy in finally allowing yourself to stop and just rest and just be. There's so much joy in the spaciousness of not having to do anything. There's joy in the quiet contentment of moments of just being, right? Sipping your tea, feeling your blankie, looking out the window, listening to some music, just being, just contentment. Witnessing the beauty of the bare branches, the lines that you never get to see normally. The Christmas lights, right? That is one of my biggest modern joys, is seeing Christmas lights. They just are delightful. And knowing that there's nothing required of you right now. My boyfriend and I were actually talking in the car, and he said, I wish that people were more like this all year round, where there's not as much like there doesn't feel like there's as much expected or required of you, except for maybe the gift giving, but people kind of can do their own thing. They can have their own experience, and people are more decent to one another because of that holiday cheer. So maybe we do need to bring this energy really through the year, because the darkness, this dark season really reminds us to look for the small joys that are available in each moment, because it seems so drab and dark. We really are seeking those moments. So may we remember that these are available to us all the time, these moments of joy. But really, my big invitation here is to radically change your relationship with completion and rest, and to allow the winter to become a more joyful season than it might normally be, because it's cold and dark and dreary. And remember, rest is resistance. We have so many modern cultures that demand constant productivity. And because of that, our rest is revolutionary. Gosh darn, our rest should not be revolutionary, but here we are. Here is modern society. So when you rest, when you allow yourself to have these moments of winter, you are practicing resistance to systems that want you to be depleted and compliant, because when you're depleted and compliant, you're a good little peon. And that is what our dominant systems want. They want us desperate. They want us in need. And I'm not a doomsdayer kind of person, naysayer, etc. But you cannot help but look at dominant systems in society and see that they are not benefiting the average person. They benefit off of burning people out. So we need more rest and more resistance and more joy than ever before to say, no, we deserve rest. We all deserve rest. So I promised today to just offer you some simple rituals. So rituals for completion and renewal. And, rituals are just opportunities to mark a transition, to honor what's complete, to celebrate something. We can do a ritual for anything, but I want to just remind you that simple, intentional actions can mark your endings as sacred. You don't have to do anything too fancy. So, some ideas for completion rituals: you could write down everything you've accomplished and celebrate it. I love having a positivity notebook. You can list what you've learned, especially from what didn't work. You can speak your gratitude out loud to yourself or to others or to the earth. And you can create some kind of symbolic release, whether that's writing something down and then burning it, burying it, or offering it to the water, flushing it down the toilet, right? Rituals don't need to be fancy. But for completion, it's like, how do you wrap it up in a nice little bow and acknowledge, like, I did this thing and I celebrate that and I receive the lessons and I integrate it. Like this whole a nice package of just really seeing it for what it is, acknowledging an ending or a beginning or a completion as sacred, because we remember ritual. We really remember ritual because it's so symbolic and meaningful. And then restoration rituals, winter is a great time to do some restoration, but all year round, we need these themes. So build practices that support your actual restoration. Not self-care is another task, but actual genuine nourishment. I know if I am like, okay, I need to do a healing session, I need to do some yoga, I need to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I need to take care of myself. I'm like already whining about it. That's like another task on my to-do list. It's not going to feel genuinely nourishing if I'm resisting it. So what actually restores you? What do you look forward to? What are you not in resistance with, so that you can restore? So these can be things like designing your sanctuary, like literally making a space for rest. I have been ongoing in the process of getting my bedroom more and more optimized for sanctuary space, having the little self-care items that I need and whatnot that really light me up nearby. You can make yourself a rest nook in an office. Create a daily stillness practice, even if it's 5 minutes. That could be something like sitting on the edge of your bed and just breathing. It could be going and sitting outside or looking out your window because it's freezing here right now and it's very hard to get outside. But just like, how can you layer in some stillness where you're not doing? Because that is restorative to just have some stillness. Establishing some non negotiable rest times, perhaps. Journaling your dreams, and that can be night dreams or waking dreams, whatever your interpretation. Acknowledging our dreams, whether it be dreams and goals or literally the dreams we have at night, can be really restorative. And then engaging your senses in gentle, nourishing ways. So, drinking a really nice cup of tea, having that really cozy sweater, having a nice scented candle that does not kick your allergies or your animal companion's allergies. How can you engage your senses in ways that feel really good to you? That is how we restore. So again, rituals get to be simple. You don't have to complicate them. But just as invitation as we wrap up our seasonal focus here, that, adapting to seasonal shifts is a thing that we have to do as humans. So we want to just be responsive to what is. What's here? What am I present with? So every day, how am I feeling? You can go deeper with these seasons and say, like, what season am I in? Right now, I am definitely in winter in most areas of my life. I am really not taking action in a lot right now. And I'm fine with that because it is winter outside and I really want to honor the winter. But what is the season I'm in need right now? Weekly, you can check in with what is completing for you, what's emerging, where are you forcing versus flowing. Monthly, you can check in with what cycles you're in. Are you honoring the season that you're actually in, or are you forcing yourself through artificial summer? These checkpoints, right? Just checking in with yourself through the seasons of life outside and through the seasons of life inside. How are you really doing? Your personal sustainability practices mirror our responsibility to Earth's sustainability. So, as a final reminder, rest is not laziness, it is a refusal to be consumed by capitalism. So, please, my friends, do not be consumed by capitalism and make sure that you layer in as much rest in your seasons of winter as you can. Let's meditate. So, as we wind down our time together here today, I'll invite you to just be here in this present moment with your body, with your breath. And just like we did with spring and summer, we'll just be with the energies of these seasons of autumn and winter. So as you breathe here, I invite you to begin to sink out of the thinking mind into the heart space, into your body. And just imagine yourself in a beautiful autumnal scene, the scent of drying leaves falling from the trees, the chill in the air, not quite freezing yet, but definitely not summer's heat. The colors mixed green, orange, yellow, red, brown, the many hues of the season. Perhaps allowing yourself to imagine you are walking on the fallen leaves, hearing the crunch, hearing the leaves against one another, rustling as the wind blows, and just feeling the peace here, feeling the charm of autumn, sensing into what you love about fall. The season is great for gratitude as well as letting go. So just acknowledging any areas of your life right now where you are completing, you're harvesting, you're wrapping up. Just taking a moment to acknowledge that with gratitude. And then allowing this scene to transform for you to find yourself cozied up, plenty warm, bundled up to face the winter season. Maybe there's snow on the ground, icicles hanging from structures. What do you notice about this winter season? The barren branches, that cold, damp scent that so often accompanies winter. The sound that comes with winter, the sound of the earth muffled with snow. Perhaps you scan around the larger scene. Maybe there's holiday lights. Maybe there's festive cheer. Just acknowledging what's here for you in winter, in the season of stillness and dormancy, the season of our darkest days and our longest nights. And for a moment here, just a moment, allow yourself to be completely in stillness, honoring the dormancy of winter. It's okay to be still. It's okay to do nothing. It's okay to just be. I'm just noticing whatever you notice here about autumn, about winter, any feelings, impressions, or desires for the seasons ahead. And then gently releasing this practice altogether. Just allowing yourself to come fully back into your body, wiggling the fingers and toes. And if they're not already open, gently blinking open your eyes. Takes moments to look around your space. Maybe do a nice little no tiger twist here. Twist the spine. Look down and up and around you. So, my friends, as we come to the end of our seasons here, but not the seasons framework, just talking deeply about the seasons, I want to invite you to play with these energies of autumn and winter in your own self-care plan. So, for areas of your life that feel like they're in autumn right now, maybe acknowledge what you've created or experienced over the course of whatever you have created or experienced. You could name 3 things you're genuinely grateful for and just really be with those. I have been really tuning into how grateful I am for humans, for my human resources, for my people, my community lately. Identify what didn't work and release it with compassion. You get to take in the lessons from it instead. Ask, what is this completion making space for? So, this could be the completion of a relationship, of a project, of a holiday gauntlet. What is this making space for? And or create a simple ritual to mark some kind of ending, whether it be the ending of whatever is completed or something else. And then for areas in winter, maybe design a space where you can rest and restore, make that rest nest, establish a non negotiable rest practice, give yourself permission to not know what's coming next. That's been my deep work here lately. And then maybe you could journal on what wisdom is emerging from the stillness and shadow. That was a big prompt in our Yule ceremony. It was really like around what's available to us in the stillness, and some amazing answers came forward. So, contemplate these things, my friends. They are invitations, not demands, but they are there for you for a reason. And then coming up, we're wrapping up our water arc. We'll be talking more about emotional rhythms and emotional challenges, how to really dive into water's wisdom, working with emotional cycles and lunar phases, understanding emotional tides and patterns, managing our seasonally affected moods. So, we will talk briefly about seasons still, but more from that framework of nourishing our bodies and really listening to the rhythms and the challenges that come with that. Seeing our emotions as information, not problems. And then, of course, creating some seasonal self care practices that honor our rhythms. So, we will return with that live recording in the new year. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we are here at the end of 2025, getting ready to go into 2026. If you did join me live or you happen to catch this near the live recording again, I wish you a beautiful holiday season, a beautiful season of winter if that's what you're in right now, and otherwise for our other southern hemisphere friends, a joyous summer. Wild. Christmas and summer just sounds like such a fun experience. But I hope that your transition into the new year is gentle. I am here, but a message away should you need me. I am so looking forward to everything coming in 2026 and the ways that I get to continue supporting you all. So until then, my friends, I love you. I see you. I believe in you, and I'm cheering you on. Until next time, and thank you to the Passionistas for making this possible. Bye for now, my friends.